The judge detailed some of what he called the horrendous details of this case. An adult man with the mental capacity of a 5-year-old starved, found tied to a bed with a rope and chain. One neighbor who lives across the street wishes she'd known sooner so she could have saved his life.
They would take a piece of rope, they would tie it to his pants or around his waist, and they would connect that rope to a dog chain and then secure the dog chain to the bed. They specifically said that was so he could not get up at night and get food.
Prosecutors detailed the graphic details of a man with disabilities who died of starvation. His parents, John and Jacqueline Hoover, are charged in his death.
In my experience, I would say this was probably the worst condition I've seen a body that was not decomposed.
The judge said the man died a slow, agonizing death from dehydration and organ failure. According to prosecutors, the 44-year-old victim was found in his mobile home, tied to a bed with a chain. Kathy Krapp, who lives across the street, says she didn't notice anything unusual.
Nothing. That's just the thing, not one thing. They were always really quiet, stayed to themselves. You know, you'd see them come to the mailbox or go to the grocery store.
We explained the details revealed in court to Krabb. Allegations that the victim hadn't been eating for more than 2 months with roaches crawling all over his body. She feels guilt that she couldn't do more to help.
It's still the other half of you thinks, well, maybe you could have done something, but then you didn't know. So you're kind of hitting the wall.
The affidavit says Hoover told police he withheld food from his son to get him to shower.
Right now, at this absolute moment, they took better care of the feral cats than they did their son.
That's disgraceful. God's not pleased with stuff like that. He's not.
Tragedy struck this home in Hixson, where police say an adult with disabilities was found severely malnourished before his death at Memorial Hospital.
He looked real raggedy, and he didn't have very nice clothes or anything like that. And he would look in the garbage cans looking for food.
Kimberly Estep says that she saw the victim frequently and used to give him food.
I felt sorry for him, and I took him some corned beef and cabbage.
John and Jacqueline Hoover are charged in their adult son's death. According to this arrest affidavit, the couple told detectives their son had a mental capacity of a 5-year-old, and they moved in to take care of him after his grandmother died.
There's still a lot of stigma around disability, particularly when it's an older person who has more significant needs. Those families are less likely to have had access to early intervention or materials around disability pride.
Authorities say the father admitted to withholding food from their son to get him to shower and tied him to the bed at night to keep him from taking food.
It does need to be recognized that this is a crime. It's an offense against, being disabled. And we have to be able to talk about and address that also while understanding how and why this occurred.
Advocate Sarah Scott says that these types of cases often go unnoticed because they are only documented when it's too late. She suggests if you notice strange behavior in an adult with disabilities, to get the authorities involved.
If we're talking about a person's life or death, an inquiry is not going to harm anyone. It's always better to err on the side of caution.
24-year-old Ashley Grasty pleaded guilty to involuntary manslaughter charges in connection with the death of her 2-month-old son. In November 2020, Grasty was living in her grandfather's home in Canton with 2 children, her infant son Camden and 3-year-old Asher. Also living in the home, Austin Klontz, assuming a parental role but not the father of the children. When a fire broke out, the grandfather and Asher escaped the fire, as well as Klontz, who was inside a detached garage at the time. But baby Camden didn't make it out. The DA's office confirms that a pathologist found the baby had died before the fire due to methamphetamine toxicity. In court, Grasty's attorney says she had gone out with friends that night, leaving the baby in Klontz's care, saying she didn't know what had happened. Klontz has an habitual offender record with multiple meth charges over recent years. In court, Grasty's attorney said she takes responsibility.
She looks at herself, she looks at her outlook, at taking responsibility for her own actions and sobriety.
The judge rejected a request for probation and sentenced Grasty to 16 to 29 months.
The sentence she got is the maximum she could get, and I guess I'm happy for that. But there is no justice in any of these cases like this.
Renee McIntosh is Asher's grandmother, now in her care.
I did not have a connection to the other child. It was Asher's brother. So to me, I hurt for him. But Asher was so young. I hope that he doesn't remember all of these things.
McIntosh, now part of a grandparents coalition calling for more legal authority in North Carolina to care for grandkids in negligent homes. Jane Webb losing her 17-month-old grandson, Kyler Presnell, in 2016 to abuse.
They keep leaving the kids in these houses. It's just going to keep repeating.
Victim advocate Ellen Pitt heads up the coalition, pushing for a grandparents' Bill of Rights.
Both parents absent because they're on drugs. That grandparent has a voice that weighs a lot and that weighs more than a paid stranger at DSS.
My grandchild is still alive. Thank you, God. But he could very well not have made it out of that house, like his baby brother. So to me, something has to be done.